So I have a friend whose teenager struggles with body dysmorphia, like really bad, absolutely hates their body. We've been talking a lot lately about how debilitating the feeling of hating your own body is. And obviously, me being the good friend that I am, I made it clear that this is something that they could help them with. They don't have to struggle alone or feel like they're in the wrong body. So I did what any other friend would do, and I recommended that she get professional help for her. So that's why next week, she'll be sending her daughter in for a full body reconstruction. We're talking liposuction, fat transfers, breast augmentation, pretty much everything that you can think of, because that's what you do when you don't feel right in your own body. Forget therapy and seeking help. You go to a doctor and you get pieces of yourself cut off. The biggest critique that I get when I make videos about people like Dylan Mulvaney is that I just hate trans people. So I think it's important for us to sit down and have a formal conversation on the subject. Now, I've spoken on this briefly before, but I think it's important for me to address this directly. First and foremost, I think it's become all too common for us to be told that we're unable to critique certain groups because it is bigotry. You can't question black people who say they hate white people.
I can't be around white people any goddamn longer. I can't do it! I can't do it!
You can't question Jewish people who say we need to flatten Gaza.
לעשות את הכל אבק, צה"ל יפרז את השטח ונתחיל לבנות שמה אזורים חדשים, קודם כל למען ביטחוננו, דבר
You can't question gay people who feel the need to be half naked, oftentimes naked, around children at Pride. And you certainly can't question the men in wigs at Planet Fitness who call themselves transgender. I think it's become all too common for us to shield these groups from criticism because they happen to be a minority. Does being critical of the behavior of a group of people who act like this make me a bad person?
Can we take a little video? Hi, Mr. President. It is an honor. Trans rights are human rights.
Are we topless at the White House?
Yes! My name is Shallow Patrice. I am 17 years old. I was born in Patrice. My phone number is 18 I'm trans. So you need a stripper phone. I can get the fuck off my campus.
So I went ahead and started using the women's restroom at work for the last week. Nothing bad happened. Very, very stressful.
I think the really crappy thing about having a period every month is that, like, I have to experience all of this pain, all this discomfort, and I don't even get the joy or the ability to bear children. Like, it's such horseshit. Especially this month, because the cramps have been really, really bad. Debilitating even, more so than usual.
So, quick discussion. Do you believe dogs have gender? Now, I'm tempted to say that the automatic answer is no, because gender is a human societal construct.
For those of you who don't know me, I am a medical school professor specializing in molecular biology. I also have an extensive background in gender studies and queer studies. The idea of sex as an immutable characteristic is a turf talking point that's been around for decades, and it's been weaponized against trans women in particular in the fashion of, oh, but you will always be male and therefore invading female spaces. Sex as it pertains to humans is a construct. It is.
I feel like I'm doing surrogacy for myself. It's free for me. If I have the parts, I'm a dad, y'all. I'm about to have my third child. If I have it, I'm going to get my well use out of it. So I am going to grow the baby myself. I have it. I'm going to get my use out of it. And then I'm going to get it cut out. I have these. I'm going to get my use out of them. When they're done, gone. Pregnancy's not feminine for me. It's not like a woman thing for me because I'm not a woman. And when I'm pregnant, I'm still not a woman.
I am a white, transmasculine, femme, non-binary, disabled, neurodivergent, obsessive-compulsive, chronically ill, Unitarian Universalist, raised Jewish, non-monogamous, demi-low romantic, gray demi-bisexual, survivor of acute and complex trauma, millennial, and cat parent in mental health.
Oh, I put it on here.
The baby has been able to latch, but I've not been able to produce any milk.
This whole birth certificate thing is really causing me a lot of hurt. Trans women can be mothers. We are mothers. I'm your mother.
There are some people who are trying to add literal pedophiles into the community. They call them maps. And we're not talking about the ones that you use to follow directions. We're talking about minor attracted persons, which is fancy far leftist verbiage for child f***er. And don't let anybody confuse you on that.
I use the term minor attracted person or MAP for multiple reasons. First of all, because I think it's important to use terminology for groups that members of that group want others to use for them. No one can control who they're attracted to at all.
Because that's what all these terms created by the alphabet mafia have started. You cracked open a window and now the weirdos are getting in. I've said this in many videos before, but I will say it again. I have no problem with transsexuals and their right to live a happy life. I follow many of them myself. I've made videos about Blair White. I've spoken to Buck Angel. I'm friends with Brianna Ivy. So I'll make it very clear. I have no issue with transsexuals. What we're seeing these days, though, aren't cases of your average transsexual. And it isn't people who just want to blend into society. Society didn't really give a shit when Laverne Cox was in Orange is the New Black. And nobody ever talks about Cher's child, Chaz Bono. It was pretty clear that the world was just trying to mind its business on this issue. And that's not to say that it wasn't being debated. It was. But people were very indifferent on the subject. Most of the Western world, believe it or not, learned about the existence of transsexuals through talk shows in the 80s and 90s.
Hello, can I say something? I have a ranch
Who
house
are you going
and
to
a
marry?
home.
Who are you going to marry? What?
I guess not.
A straight man or a gay man?
Has a son and everything.
What
We're
about?
gonna get married for our 3rd year anniversary. We've been together for a year and a half.
What are you going to do with your penis?
Give it to you. He's gonna give it a hug.
It was during that time that the term gender dysphoria began to become more common.
Brian suffers from a condition known as gender dysphoria or gender confusion. As a child, he was often mistaken for a girl and chose to play with girls and girls' things, much to the dismay of his conservative family in Providence, Rhode Island.
Gender dysphoria is the mental disorder that is said to cause individuals to be transgender. The condition apparently makes individuals feel like the gender that they were born with doesn't match with how they feel. And it is very important for us to be able to note that this is a diagnosable mental disorder. That's a very important metric for us to set. More on that in a second. The transsexuals of yesterday seem to simply want to live freely and not be discriminated against. The goal was to blend into society.
After 20 sometimes glamorous years as a woman, April now lives alone in Hay-on-Wye, her isolation broken only by visits from people like Philip, the son of her best friend. The locals are used to her now and accept her for what she is.
When I go into the pub, I'm April. I'm never given any preferential treatment. I have to wait my turn. And in fact, because Hay is such a male-orientated place for fishermen, farmers, horses, horse dealers, studs, sometimes you in fact have to wait until all the men have been served. It's an extraordinary thing.
To put it simply, I don't give a shit that you're trans. What bothers me is all the bullshit that certain members in this community have started. Over the last 10 to 15 years, we've seen the rise of those that can only be referred to as trans trenders, members of the TQ plus community. The modern trans movement is a cult of narcissists that society has babied by giving them attention. Most of the Western world went from not knowing or caring about trans people to seeing it everywhere. The scary part about that is that they are literally changing the landscape of the Western world, and not for the better. This group has developed a reputation for violence, denying and oftentimes rewriting the truth, and indoctrinating the children of America, to say the least. I don't believe that most people even have an issue with transsexuals. And transsexual and transgender are a very important differentiation for us to make. Because as I've just said, the transsexuals of yesteryear, of the 80s and 90s, that just wanted to blend into society, at least from the proof, cannot be compared to the psychopaths that we're seeing in the news every single day. There's a difference. Are trans women women? No, and they never will be. Sane transsexual people will gladly agree on that.
I do believe in sex. I believe in biological sex. I am a biological female who decided that I felt male and wanted to look male and live in the world as male. And as you see, I pretty much look like a man.
You pull it off.
But I am not a biological man.
In order for them to have gender dysphoria, they have to be born the opposite sex.
Why are we denying biology? That is something I will not be a part of, because if I wasn't a biological female, I wouldn't be a trans person.
Trans women are trans women. Biological women, as in biological sex, are the only real women. Period. And I do believe it's important to point that out for many reasons. For one, it is a recognized mental disorder to have gender dysphoria. This is what causes people to be transgender. We've been through this. And in order for us to be able to agree that trans is real, it is imperative for us to agree that gender dysphoria is a mental disorder. Or if not, the surgeries that you're telling your doctor that you have to get or you'll die are just plastic surgeries. If gender dysphoria isn't real, then these surgeries are no different than Kim Kardashian's body-affirming care. Or what about the supposed transgender that we always hear of? Well, in 2022, a study estimates that the number of people in the US who identify as transgender exceeds more than 1.6 million. And in that same year, it was reported that 32 transgender people were killed. I'd say that by the numbers, whoever is committing this transgender isn't doing very well at executing their plan. It should also be noted that more than half as many people died of lightning strikes in that same year. I am not justifying violence against any group, but the numbers do not lie. You tell me what that tells you. What I believe to be most sinister about this social justice movement is its insistence in involving children. The involvement and indoctrination of children within this movement is a huge red flag.
Another blaring example, drag queen story time. It's happening in Canada and America, where some public schools and libraries invite drag queens, some dressed like horned demons, to read to young children.
And it's a social deconstructionist agenda.
While they are here, while students are with us, we are acting in loco parental, which apparently means that we are acting in place of the parents. And so therefore, we have to abide by parent wishes when it comes to preferred name and pronouns, which just isn't true.
And I hate the pretty picture that activists paint to children about what it's like to be transgender, pretending like these hormones, these puberty blockers, are reversible, pretending like they're not known to cause infertility. Imagine making the decision about whether or not you want to have children at the age of 13. Most of us are close to 30 when we decide finally if we want to have children. Many of us a while after that. Many of these children just say, oh, whatever, that's not a problem. Cooties, as most kids say when they're young. And obviously I'm speaking of teenagers. By then, by 13 years old, you should be over that shit. But regardless, they're still in that awkward phase of figuring things out. And imagine being thrown a question like that at such an age and having to make a decision. But what I think is much worse is the surgeries that are at the end of that tunnel. And I say the end of that tunnel because they come with consequences, and oftentimes it's just the beginning of a long medical battle. And I know because I've spoken to people who have gone through these surgeries. On my channel, it is not a pretty picture. Nothing of the sort. Children are being told that if you feel like you're in the wrong body, it's as easy as getting your hormones within 30 minutes and becoming infertile at 13. And before anybody tries to tell me that this isn't happening, that's exactly what happened to Brianna Ivy. And I know because I interviewed her.
I told her that I was like, I want to transition. I am transgender and this and that. And she just kind of asked me some yes or no questions about like, are you uncomfortable with your body? And like, just kind of asking me if I was comfortable or uncomfortable with certain things related to gender. Yeah. And then I had the prescription for the hormones, and I had the blocker injection as well.
Within 30 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
And Brianna is one of many. It's alarming to me that these surgeries and these procedures and these drugs are advertised as harmless and reversible. These kids get on these drugs, become infertile, and then hop on the train to play copy and paste when they turn 18. You want something? Well, we can just copy it right onto you. Because that's how most doctors make this process out to be. They can make you just like a woman.
By starting as young as possible, like I was told I was going to go through female puberty. They were telling me about how the new procedure, like the form of the experimental version I was going to have, was that the tissue that they were going to use, they told me that like under a microscope, it was going to be identical.
The truth is that that is false. Because most, if not all of these procedures are 100% experimental. Instead of telling you and your child how dangerous these procedures are, in the state of Oregon, you can get your mastectomy done at 15. Instead of taking them to therapy to see what else might be going on, many of these children will grow to regret these procedures and wish that they could go back in time. But as you would expect, once you cut something off, unfortunately, it's not that easy to get it back.
They removed my testicles and they were disposed. So how's that coming back? They don't go dig them up and find them and reattach it.
Let me make something very clear. I do not believe that it is the government's jurisdiction to tell an adult in America whether or not they can transition. The older I get, the more that I realize that I don't want the government having a say in everything that I do. I'm obviously not talking about things like murder, but generally speaking, I don't believe it's the best idea for the government to have a say in everything that we do. I come from Cuba, a country whose government practically controls everything, a country that overnight saw the slow death of the rights of its people. I don't want to deal with that here. I'm not against your right to be you and exist as a transsexual. What I am against is what this movement has become. Like many of us, I don't believe that the phrase Black Lives Matter is inherently bad. Of course, fill in the blank, lives matter. We're all human and we all deserve the right to live and to have rights. Most people, though, critique how some have turned that into a rallying cry for Black supremacy over other races.
I can't be around white people any goddamn longer. I can't do it! I can't do it! Black Lives Matter!
And as I said in my video on the Israel-Palestine war, I am not a race supremacist. Or some rightfully critique how the Black Lives Matter organization took hundreds and hundreds of dollars in donations and has done nothing for the Black community. You see, most Americans in 2024 have zero issue respecting each other's right to be. But when you start telling their young daughters that in order for them to be happy, that they should cut off their breasts, or people like Jeffrey Marsh pushing these children to allegedly go no contact with their families, I would also have a problem with you and your movement. I would also question the intent of your movement. It's also very unfortunate that this group has gotten a reputation for being violent.
Oh! I gotta get you. Whoa. What's this about? What? Why are we doing this? They're violent. They're violent men. Violent men. Hey! This is male. Why are we doing this? Because they're violent men.
You suck. You suck. Fuck you. Fuck you. You're not wanted. Fuck you. You're a fucking idiot. You're a fucking.
I don't know what to say. I guess these police officers are mostly indoctrinated as well. They're afraid of the mob. I think they're afraid that if they do anything to actually keep law and order, that they'll end up being on the end of this verbal abuse. So it's just cowardice from everybody all around.
People probably want to know, how do you keep your composure?
What's up?
How do you keep your composure?
Fuck you. 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 Hey, get the fuck out. Once again, it's male.
I actually said both of you guys. It was general.
Right beforehand, you fucking said, sir.
Sir? Okay.
Motherfucker, take it outside. If you want to call me sir again, I will show you a fucking sir.
I apologize.
Motherfucker.
I apologize now.
The TQ plus quite literally attack people for anything. Using the wrong pronoun, using the right pronoun.
This person just came into the bar and said, hey, what are your pronouns? You kind of look like a they, them. And I hated that they were right.
Or all the men who suddenly identify as transgender to get into women's prisons and immediately start raping them. Or simply walking into a store and axing someone in the face. And we can't forget the protesters who just want equality and freedom for all.
Guess what? Somebody's gonna shoot you in the head. A heart full of hate. A heart full of hate. Somebody is. With all this anti-shit and hateful shit you doing, somebody's gonna do that to you. Somebody's gonna do that to you. All that hateful shit, somebody's gonna do that to you. And nobody's gonna hurt that you're dead. Somebody's gonna shoot you in the head.
There are people like Buck Angel, Blair White, and many other transsexuals that comment under my videos and send me emails that just want to blend into society. For most transsexuals, that's always been the goal. But these trans people are doing it for attention, and many as a fetish, something that goes by the name of autogynephilia. It's defined as a male's propensity to be sexually aroused by the thought of himself as a female. Basically, it's a sexual fetish. And in case it needed to be pointed out, society shouldn't have to participate in your fetish. It's not consensual, motherfucker. I think most of the world's opinion on transsexuals can be explained by this comment left by one of my viewers. I'll read it to you. I'm okay with gays, not okay with trans, the ones, men, that think that they can compete in women's sports, or those who push their agenda onto easily manipulated children. Nope. There are only two genders. XX equals female, XY equals male. You can identify as what the fuck, be an owl for fuck's sake, you want, but you're still either a human male or female. I'm done with this BS, and I will call you a he or her based on if I think you look like a woman or a man. Not pretend caricature of a woman, but actual woman. Blair White, sure, I'll call her a she. A dude with a beard and lipstick for 5 minutes? I'm gonna call you a he. I don't play these delusions. And it's really that simple. The more time goes by and the more leeway society provides, the worse this movement gets. The modern trans movement is past being a cult and more closely resembles the characteristics of a religion. You are to follow a set of rules, you are to behave a certain way, you are to speak a certain way, and you must obey your doctrine. There is a reason why in previous videos I have referred to this as the transgender. This movement, spearheaded by the activists, is a political pawn, a pot of gold for the pharmaceutical industry, and a point of concern for any parent. It is important for us to be vocal about these concerns. The lawsuits from detransitioners are already happening, and more of them are coming. Do not be scared, and do not be intimidated. Countries like Finland and Sweden that have had more time with this issue are reversing course as we speak. We can't question the intentions or actions of a person because they happen to be trans, even if they're indoctrinating children. That doesn't add up to me, and it shouldn't to you either. I don't hate transsexuals. We are all God's children. But if they don't start to call out the radicals within that TQ plus community, the general public will soon not be able to tell the difference between them. Alrighty, y'all, that is all I have for you today. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up and comment down below. Let me and YouTube know that you enjoyed it. Don't forget to follow me on all my socials. Everything is linked down below. I am trying to get to 500 followers on X, so go and follow me there immediately, please. I also want to take an opportunity to thank everybody for the love on my recent uploads, and I also want to go ahead and extend a warm welcome to all of my new viewers. It is quite a few. I'm a little bit overwhelmed, but I really appreciate your support, and I will see you on the next one.